My tea is so good, I don't wanna stop drinking it.
It will be there. You can take a sip in mid podcast.
I might.
Well, kind of let's try to like move into that whole I don't even know the name of the show. But it's Whoopi Goldberg and three other women.
Yeah,
What's the
right.
name of that show?
I
Where they
know.
just sit around and they
I
drink
know,
their
they just
coffee and they
drink
shoot.
coffee and talk. That's okay. Let's do it. That's the vibe we want. We're just tea at the table, coffee at the table, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay.
Welcome back to Beautiful Work, Beautiful Life with Laurel and Laurel. We are here to help you close out your year because we are ready to jump into a new year, aren't we, Laurel?
Absolutely. I can't wait. I love the new year actually.
I love your energy for the new year because your birthday is in the new year, and I can feel that the breadth of excitement and the energy that you bring to us so good. So you're going to be leading us on the charge in that way today. Today, listeners, friends, our dear friends out there, our podcast listeners, we love you. We love that you're connected with us. We love that you know that you're out there. We know that you're on the other side of us being here, speaking out, and we love that you're doing the beautiful work. We want to thank you again for dedicating yourself and your time and your life to healing and growing and evolving forward with us. And we celebrate you today. Yeah.
Mm,
So
all
beautiful.
that and more. All that
Yeah.
and more.
All that and more. So today we are going to close out the year and begin a new year. So our title for today is, I will let Laurel announce it.
Putting me right on the spot.
I am.
Looking back to step forward.
Yes, looking back to step forward. And we were talking, before we got going on the show, and we were just talking about how, the images that were coming up for me was like, when you're starting a new painting, you want a blank canvas. When you're starting a new show, you want to clear the stage and set your new stage, right? So we want you to imagine, whatever metaphor works for you, of thinking that that's really what the show is about today, like getting you really ready to clear the old and welcome in the new, so you can just step forward with ease into the new year. Yeah,
it's good. And can I share the image that was coming to me as we were talking about this?
Yes.
It was the red carpet. And whenever you have people that are just stepping onto the red carpet, they're always looking to their side or right behind them before they take that step. In all that glamour, all the big stuff that comes when you step and walk down that red carpet.
Yeah. It's a celebration. It's
It
a celebration.
is.
Can every step forward be a celebration? That's an interesting way to think about the new year. I might have to mull on that one a little bit as I'm pondering what my word of the year is going to be. But I'm rushing into the show, so I don't want to go ahead too quickly.
Slow down.
Hold on. Okay. So we want to do the look back because, Laurel, why do we look back? We do that. You and I do this a lot, right? Yeah.
My looking back has everything to do with celebrating how far I've come, right? Because sometimes when we are in the moment, which I know you and I both try to live, we move into the next moment and the next moment without looking back at just how far we've come and how much growth and opportunity and reasons to celebrate there are.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I feel like definitely that, right? I probably could amp up my game a little bit on that end, right? I feel like I probably historically have been, excuse me, more dedicated more time to what have I let go of this year? What kind of healing work have I done this year? And not necessarily in a real celebratory, celebrating a lot. It's been more like acknowledging it, affirming it, and recognizing like what spaces I've opened up inside myself to engage in life in a new way, I think is really what it's been. Yeah. So interesting to look at this process, and to I feel like the more consciously we do it, the more excitement we can actually bring into the new year as well. So I feel like if you tend to like look at the new year and go, oh, I have to set goals, I have to, I have to make a plan. Like with in a draggy kind of way. Like we want to hopefully transform that a little bit today and give you some ideas of ways to bring excitement into the year and to let go of the old year, to look back and let go with the same kind of celebration excitement that we want to look forward, right? And I
Yes.
want to refer to we last year. We did a couple shows on early in January on planning for the new year, and so I want people to feel free to go. After this show, if you want to go and look at some of those for the new year to prepare yourself, because January for us in this season is going to be a little bit different. So if you really want to like how we think about doing some planning and that kind of thing, I want you to refer back to last year. And we'll put the link in the show notes here. But Laurel, I have some questions
I
that
can't wait.
I know I started writing down some questions, and some of my questions actually come from my daughter, who she and her husband, now husband, was her fiance before. Well, they kind of introduced us to what we call birthday questions now, and so at birthday time, they usually ask us the birthday questions, and we've tried to spread it out among the family. So if they're not around, we still want to do the birthday questions because they're great questions. And so some of them really felt like they fit in to our what we're talking about today, and looking back and then stepping forward. So I'll let you know which ones are threaded in there. But I feel like so the first one that came up for me was what was your focus last year? Like just to kind of to let yourself like do a little sit back, right? And kind of look over the year and say, what did I really focus on? In the past year, did I keep my focus in any particular kind of spaces? And if you did, just kind of give them a little name or give them a little phrase so you can get a sense of where your attention was going and where your intention was directed for last year. Because I do think that helps us get clear about what we want to attend to in the year ahead, right?
Yes.
And if we didn't have any, that's good to know too, right? If we didn't really have a focus or we really didn't have intentions, it's like, it's okay. It's just, this is all to prep us so that we can go more consciously into the next year. Yeah.
And I mean, one of the things I was thinking about as you spoke into that
Mm.
was, at this point, I could not tell you what my word of the year might have been last year, right? I
Mhm.
definitely lost focus on that. But when I look back on the last year, I can see kind of the theme of the year. And so
Nice.
maybe if our listeners didn't have an intention going into last year, but want to be more, mindful of that and have an intention for the next year ahead, it's what looking back, what was the theme of your year and how could that be kind of maybe a foundation or a beginning step for your intention for the coming year?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And the word of the year is a great way to set an intention or set a direction or keep your attention. And I know for me, I've had most years in the last probably decade, I've had a word of the year that I've used. And I feel like this year, interestingly, as you say, that yours wasn't really in focus a lot for you. Mine was in my face all the time, all year. My word was unbound. And even this the month while we're recording, I had revelations around that. And so, it's okay. It's all good. The goal here is to have ourselves become more self-directed around all of this. And so these words, the themes, the phrases, right? They are the things that help us keep direction in the ways that we want to go. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious. So how did you
Mm.
keep your word of the year or your intention kind of on the forefront? How do you what practice do you have to be mindful of your
Yeah.
word?
Yeah. One of the ways is I do a fire ceremony, a gathering at my home in my yard every year with women around my area that come and join me, and so we oftentimes repeat our word at fire ceremony, our word of the year at fire ceremony, to just keep it front and center for us, and continue to share that, and maybe we might share a little bit about the journey in that way, and I think that. I think the other thing was there was a lot of energy around my word for me this year in terms of Uh, I remember when it came in last December at fire ceremony, I had got the word and it was like just so clear. Wow, yeah, that's a powerful word for me. Um, and I think the energy of it really was almost like alive in me a lot, right? Unbound, unbound. I would think to myself, you know, who's holding me back? What's holding me back, right? I'm only holding me back. What's the old conditioning or what's the thing that might be binding me up and keeping me from, X, Y, and Z, whatever it was in that moment that I might want to be doing or saying. Yeah. Yeah. So it's been a
Mhm.
real great year that way.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question I've had. What will you leave behind? What chapters would you close this year? Is there anything that you want to kind of close? And sometimes we really, want to close a chapter and we don't really consciously do it, but when we do consciously do it and let go, we free ourselves to. It's almost like opening up a new chapter, like really allowing ourselves to begin a new. And sometimes it's you're closing a book and you're starting a new book, right?
Yes.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, do you want me to answer what I might leave behind?
Yeah. Do you have anything that you know that you're leaving behind this year, Laura?
Absolutely not.
Mhm. Yeah.
But this is really good because when I think about as we prepare for the new year ahead, the
Mhm.
questions that you're asking really are questions that I feel like I need to sit with, right?
Yeah.
What do I want to bring in the coming year, and what am I going to leave behind? Which makes me think about what am I willing to leave behind,
Yeah.
which is a whole different energy or emotion to that question than, oh my God, I can't wait to leave this behind, right? It's like,
Mhm.
what am I going to leave behind?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Almost what's coming up for me is almost in a peace offering of who I once was, making space for who I am becoming. So there's a
Beautiful.
lot there.
There is a lot there. And I think, it's okay to not have clear answers to any of the questions I'm posing today. They're all questions to work with to help you, hopefully, uncover some inner revelation or some inner ahas or some inner awarenesses that will just help you along on your journey. So, you can
Mm,
write down the questions. You can say, oh, I don't really have a sense of that right now, but you can always come back and revisit them a few times and just see if anything bubbles up. I always say, let the questions work on you a little bit, You
so
don't, if
good.
there's no answer, it's okay. Yeah. Um, let's see. How did you change and grow in the past year? Like, what was your beautiful work? I love that too. What was our beautiful work this year that we did? Um, and usually when we're looking at what the beautiful work was, we changed, we grew, we evolved, we have been becoming this year. How have you been becoming? Allow yourself to really own that, right?
Yes. And this
Yes.
and this question really resonates with me because this is
Mm,
when I reflect on the past and I bring celebration into it. This is exactly why, right? Because in the moment, often my beautiful work, what I am becoming, often it's uncomfortable,
yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
uncomfortable for me, it's uncomfortable or causes discomfort for the people around me or in my relationships as I change, my relationships change. And so while you're in that work, sometimes it doesn't feel like a reason to celebrate, right?
Mhm.
We walk cautiously through our beautiful work, but looking back and knowing where I was a year ago, I there's a lot there, and that's
Yeah.
why I celebrate it.
Yeah, that's great. I
Yeah.
think that's a great reminder too. We always come back and we talk about the beautiful work. Sometimes is messy. It's not necessarily beautiful in the perfect sense of the word, but it becomes the beautiful work because when you look back, right, and you see the fruits of the work, it was beautiful. The outcome, is at some point we'll move to a place where you go, wow, yeah, that's great, that's beautiful, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we have to be patient and just do our work, right? Okay. Oh, I love this one. this was one of the birthday questions. And I felt like it was a great question to even do at the end of every year, right? What are you proud of from the last year? And that's a celebration question too, isn't it, Laurel?
It really
Yeah.
is. You know,
Mm,
I think about that a lot and I coach a lot about that. Like, if we're not recognizing what's worthy of celebration as we do our work on ourselves, then we lose a sense of pride in all that we are really capable of doing. So
yeah.
I love this question. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. And I feel like uh I love what are you proud of also is a great word to help you um if you're not clear in your values or what your priorities are, oftentimes what you're proud of will help you link back to what your deeper values and what your real priorities are internally, right? Because what you feel proud of or what you feel like, wow, I did that, that's really great, usually has threads back to what's really important to you, what your true deep values are, right?
Yes. And
Yeah.
the other thing I think that comes up when we ask ourselves, what what am I proud of? Is so many women, especially that I know and I work with, we don't take credit for our work, right? We are so in service of others, um, and oftentimes put our own needs and desires last. And so that question of what am I proud of sometimes is really hard to answer
Yeah.
because in our being behind the scenes and not being in the forefront, you know, it's hard for us to even hear
Mm.
or claim what we are to be proud of.
Yeah.
So I
And it's
love this.
I think it's good. And I would say if you have trouble with the word being proud of, you could also say, what do you feel good about from the last year? And we come back to the course to celebrate. What do you want to celebrate from last year? Is like what were your I mean, I guess the old language would be what were your wins? What goals did you complete? Or I don't know, like some of the old terminology that we're letting go of and trying to adopt a new beautiful way of a more beautiful, gentle, graceful way of doing all this, right? Yeah.
Yes,
Okay. I got another one. Okay, everybody ready for this one?
I am.
What forgiveness work do you have that you might have from this past year that you haven't completed for yourself or for others? And I'm saying this because we have had podcasts, we've done a podcast on forgiveness work, we've done a podcast on self forgiveness work. And I want to reiterate that both Laurel and I believe, we are of the opinion that forgiveness work can bring you some of the most peace and freedom in your life that you could possibly experience. And so to be able to make a review of your year and to see if you're holding any grudges, holding any hurt, holding any anger towards someone or towards yourself, and to be aware of it, right? And maybe you want to do a little bit of it right now. Maybe you want to set it and know that you are going to be aware of that going into the next year and what limitations that could possibly place on your life going forward. And maybe is it time, asking yourself, is it time to get to that, right? And we don't really
Yes.
know if we don't like put our finger on it, go, yeah, I need to do that. Or yeah, that's right there in front of me. Yeah.
Yes. Or, one of the things I think about with forgiveness is it is deep work. And
Yes.
and often going forward, even if we can't, I'll say, settle into forgiveness of something yet in the past, that is something that I would bring forward with me into a new year, right? How can I continue
The journey.
to be more
Mhm.
comfortable, in my forgiveness?
That's great because I truly believe that forgiveness for me, when I hear the word forgiveness now, I've done so much forgiveness work and worked with people so much on this topic that for me it's I see almost see like this spiral funnely kind of image where we begin our forgiveness work and it's big and we go around this circle and we make kind of a sweeping gestures around acknowledging all the parts there are, and then we go around again and we get a little closer to forgiving, and then we go around again, and it's such a it takes time in our heart for our heart truly to forgive some really difficult wounds, it's a time, it's an ongoing experience to really get to that place of real peace, freedom, a sense of truly letting go, and that's okay. That's okay.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
it is. That is the process of
hmm,
forgiveness.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Laurel, anything else coming up for you in terms of like looking back as we start to step forward and ask some stepping forward questions?
The looking back, we didn't touch on gratitude, but that's a big part of my
Mhm.
looking back as well, right? As I look back and think about where have I grown, who have, um, yes, how much has changed, you know, I really do think about looking back in gratitude for all of the good and all of the maybe not so good that was just such a good learning experience. So gratitude
Mm,
is a big piece of my end of the year
yeah,
practice.
yeah, that's great. That's great. So I would say, kind of as a wrap up, right? Is what do you what can you feel grateful for the past year, as well as what are we celebrating? And maybe the gratefuls are kind of embedded in the celebrations as you acknowledge what you're celebrating, or what you've accomplished, what you're proud of, whatever. Like the gratefuls might be there, but to actually um, we're going to talk about this in our next podcast, right? Our
Yes,
is great. This gratitude practice
it's big.
it's the game changer. So
It sure is.
we'll tell you why in the next podcast. Yeah.
I'm starting to think that almost everything that we talk about is a game changer because forgiveness is a game changer.
Yeah.
Gratitude is a game changer.
Well, they are. Well, inner work, it changes everything, right? For
Yeah.
me, yeah, we go. Your
Yeah.
inner work is your inner state creates your outer state. Okay, so looking forward. Looking forward. I have some questions. Any question pop right into your mind, Laurel, before I share some of mine? Mm.
Nope. I want you to start.
Okay, I'm going to start with, actually, it's a birthday question, but it's also one of the questions that I know Laurel, my partner in crime over here, uses all the time with people, right? Which is, how do you want to feel? How do you want to feel next year?
Mm. That is my core question.
It is.
Imagine if we could step forward into our life simply based on how we want to feel.
I know.
Mm,
It sets such a clear intention. So if you're having trouble setting intentions and you don't like the whole goal setting model, right? If that's not working for you, and your business, let's say you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, right, is one of the ways that you can go into this more gracefully, more consciously, and also help direct you towards the choices that you want to make, is being clear in how do you want to feel. So I want to go into a meeting feeling clear in my agenda and focused in my what I have to say, right? So clear and focused. I want to be more clear. I want to be more focused. I want to feel excited and empowered in my work this year, right? Okay, what will it take for you to feel excited, right? What will it take for you to feel empowered? If you're following someone else's rules about how to do social media or how to set up your systems in your business, and it only makes you feel drained, that's probably not a great intention or goal for you, going into the new year. So this is a
yeah.
great, yeah.
And I use this one a lot with, many people at the beginning of the year set health or wellness goals, right? Like wanting to lose
Mm,
a certain number of pounds or wanting to exercise a certain number of days a week. And when I started really focusing instead of on those task goals, um, and how I want to feel, things became much easier. I want to feel good in my body, right?
mm,
Without giving myself maybe a very stringent recipe on what I need to do. You know, every day coming into it, I want to feel good in my body today. I
mm,
know what I need to do in order to feel good in my body.
yeah,
Sometimes, right, it's a gratitude practice. Sometimes it's going for a walk. But I get to choose. So how you want to feel is such a big driver for me.
It's a
Yeah.
big one. It's become more and more of a driver for me. I think you've worked on me a little bit in that area, which is really good.
I'm glad because you're rubbing off on me too. Thank you.
All right, I have a really big question, but we're going to save that one for the last. I have do you have a word for the year? I think we let's just go right there really quickly because again, a word for next year can help give you some that kind of beacon, a little beacon that you can always come back to if you kind of feel lost or you're like, oh, what am I even doing this year? At some point, you're like, I don't know. Come back to your word, right? Revisit your word. What that word and I think how you get your word is really important, right? Because what you don't want to do is feel like I should do this word. It should not be coming from a should place because that's going to come from an ego place. It's going to come from oftentimes a burdened or heavy kind of feeling place. So what we want to do is, I mean, ideally, you want to feel like you're receiving a word from an intuitive place, from deep inside yourself, from your soul, your spirit, your divine connection, God, source, energy, whatever feels like you're connected to in a big way that could be good, is good guidance, right? And that you feel like, ooh, that word's hitting me. I can feel that's got some important messages in there for me. Yeah.
I love that approach. One of the things I was thinking when we started talking about what is your word, oftentimes we do pick a word based on, an obligation or a goal, right?
Yeah.
And then as this question comes up on the heels of the last, how do you want to feel? Right away, I was thinking, oh, maybe my word of the year is going to be ease because
Mm,
I would love to live a life of ease,
yeah.
which doesn't mean work. Listeners, don't be fooled.
That's
It
right.
mean it means maybe more like a flow and ease.
Mhm.
But I do love the thought of, sitting maybe in silence, maybe in nature, walking in nature, and being open to receiving your word.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
because
Beautiful.
I do believe, that it if it's coming from a deep intuition or some other, spirit source, when I think about this inner work and how we want to live each year really is bigger than ourselves, bigger than my head, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, for sure, for sure. Okay, let's see. I think I hit most of my questions on my list. I would say, um, you know, uh, one of the things that is an interesting question that came up for me, and when the question came up, I thought, huh, I don't know about that question, but I'm going to say it out loud just because I feel like it came in, like the other questions came in, which were like, okay, here, this is important. What would be good for me next year? And good as in like what would make me feel good, right? Not as in like what would make me a better person or what would make me a good person, but what would be good for me, as in healthy, as in make me feel excited. Yeah.
And what's coming up for me is maybe what would be good for me might not just include feeling good or something that is good for me physically, but it might also be some experience that I have that is good for my personal growth, right?
Yeah,
What, like,
yeah.
sometimes we don't know what is good for us until
Mhm.
after it's happened.
Yeah, yeah.
So I love
That's
that
so good.
question.
It is a good
Yeah.
question, and it's coming up for me as you framed it that way, which was really thank you for helping me through that because I was like, what this question is a little sticky. I kind of I feel it, and I'm like, but I don't want our listeners to interpret it in a I don't know kind of a bossy way, like I don't know, like be a good girl, like not like that. You know what I mean? Be a good boy, not like that.
Right, right.
Right? Yeah. Um, so when you were talking about it, I got this like if you just posed like that question to yourself as if you were searching for your words, same thing, waiting to be received, receive the information. If you heard like go on a retreat, learn to meditate, you know, take one more day off a week. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, but let yourself at least ask the question and see what comes through.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I love that.
I love
One of the
that.
questions that is coming up for me is what do I want to experience, right? We talk
Mhm.
about how do we want to feel in the coming year, but what do I want to experience? Or maybe another way to phrase that would be what what will add richness to my life, right?
Nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's good. Yeah, because sometimes, all the questions are good questions. Different questions strike us different ways at different times. So any question, that if you hear the question and some other question pops into your head, trust it, right?
Yes.
Trust that that's the question that you need. All right, here is my one more question that I have, Laurel. And this is one of the birthday questions that my son-in-law came up with that he expanded the birthday questions to. And I love this question. If you were to have something happen this year that was beyond your wildest dreams, what might that be? Right? That's so good.
It's
Because it
really good.
takes us out of our box, our comfort zone, and the smaller box that we might keep keeping ourselves in. If you could have something beyond your wildest dreams, wow, doesn't that just invite you to dream and think beyond what the possibilities are that you have right now? Why can't
Yes.
why can't we let ourselves? So beautiful.
I know, and it's interesting because I think this is a question sometimes we don't even dare to ask because we have forgotten how to dream bigger than our wildest dreams,
Right,
right?
right.
And so this might be a difficult question for our listeners, but don't let that, you know, the don't let
Mhm.
it be overwhelming.
Right,
Just
right.
let
Just ask.
yourself dream a little bigger than you are now.
Absolutely. And go back and listen to our podcast that we did earlier this year on opening to a new vision, a vision for your beautiful life, because we did dig into that, topic a little bit and how to like how to recover being the visionary of your life, the dreamer of your
Yes.
life. Yes, yes. So that's
Yes.
great. Well, Laurel, I am super excited to jump into 2023 with our listeners, and we've got such just a great lineup in January. I'm just like I hope listeners you're ready to rock and roll with us because we're gonna do some great stuff with you in January, aren't we, Laurel?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's going to be a good year ahead.
such a
Yes.
great year. Laurel,
Mm.
thank you for the past year and all our time together and all these shows that we've enjoyed, sharing with our listeners and our time together. It's been really wonderful. I appreciate
Yep.
you. I'm grateful for you.
I feel the same about you. And when I think about what adds richness to my life, it is being here with you, having these conversations and bringing the conversation to our listeners.
Yeah.
In a world where sometimes no one is asking you how you
Mhm.
feel or how you want to feel, and talking about these rich topics that really do change your life. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Oh, all right. I'll see you next year. See you next year, listeners. Bye for now.
Bye
Onward.
bye.
Bye.
Bye.